Yo, it's Nug from SLATE back with an NBA slate breakdown for Saturday, January the 17th. We're going to be doing a game-by-game deep dive at our favorite leans and one official best bet for all 9 games. You can get all our plays, cheat sheets, and more every day posted in our VIP Discord. Use code YT10 for $9.99 first month in our VIP. Link in bio. A lot of action today. Let's get into the slate. Before jumping into the slate, I wanted to take a step back and recap yesterday's best bets. We went 3-2, moving us to 21-10 on the season. Zion Williamson over 24.5 hit. Tyrese Maxey 4+ threes did not. Kawhi Leonard over 35.5 points, rebounds, assists voided. Michael Porter Jr. over 25.5 points hit. Alperen Sengun over 19.5 points hit. And Zach LaVine over 21.5 points did not. First game I want to talk about are the Utah Jazz traveling to Dallas to play the Mavericks. The Mavericks are sitting at a 4-point favorite and a 241.5 point total. The Jazz will be without Walker Kessler, George Niang, and Lauri Markkanen, while the Mavericks will be without Kyrie Irving, Dante Exum, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, with Cooper Flagg and Daniel Gafford listed as doubtful, and Max Christie listed as probable. My best bet for this game is Jusuf Nurkic over 3.5 assists. Line is criminally low against the Dallas team that gives up the 6th most assists to the position. He had this line in 9 of his last 10 and 4 of his last 5. The other spot I want to talk about in this game is Keontae George over 23.5 points. Matchup play here against Dallas, who gives up the 4th most points to the position. Did this line in 5 of his last 10 and I expect a big game. The next game is the Indiana Pacers traveling to Detroit to play the Pistons. Pistons are sitting at a 13-point favorite and a 225.5 point total. Pacers will be without Obi Toppin, Tyrese Halliburton, and Benedict Mathurin, with Isaiah Jackson listed as questionable, while the Pistons have Asor Thompson and Cade Cunningham listed as probable, with Paul Reed listed as questionable. My best bet for this game is Cade Cunningham over 26.5 points. Gets himself a good matchup against an Indiana team that gives up the 5th most points to the position. He's hit this number in 6 of his last 10 as well as 4 of his last 5. One other spot I wanted to look at is Pascal Siakam over 24.5 points. Pretty good matchup against the Pistons who give up the 9th most points to the position. His number in 5 of his last 10 and 3 of his last 6 head-to-head. Next game is the Phoenix Suns traveling to New York to play the Knicks. Knicks are sitting at a 3.5 point favorite and a 224.5 point total. The Suns will be without Jamar Boye and Jalen Green, with Devin Booker listed as questionable, while the Knicks will have Jalen Brunson listed as questionable. My best bet for this game is Devin Booker over 6.5 assists. Gets himself a pretty good matchup here against the Knicks, who give up the 7th most assists to the position. He's hit this number in 5 of his last 10 and more importantly 4 of his last 5. One other spot I wanted to talk about is Karl Anthony Towns over 11.5 rebounds. Gets himself a pretty good matchup against the Suns, who give up the 7th most to the position. This number in 5 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 3 head-to-head. The next game we're going to talk about are the Boston Celtics traveling to Atlanta to play the Hawks. Celtics sit at a 3.5 point favorite and a 229.5 point total. Celtics will be without Jason Tatum and Josh Minot, with Peyton Pritchard listed as doubtful, while the Hawks will be without N'Faly Dante, Zachary Rissacher, and Kristaps Porzingis, with Dyson Daniels listed as questionable. My best bet for this game and the only spot I want to talk about is Jaylen Brown over 2.5 threes. Had himself in a pretty decent matchup against the Hawks, who give up the 11th most threes to the position. His volume's been up, and I'm hoping for a decent game with Peyton Pritchard expected to miss. The next game is the Oklahoma City Thunder traveling to Miami to play the Heat. Thunder sitting at a 9-point favorite and a 234.5 point total. The Thunder will be without Nikolai Topic, Thomas Sorber, and Isaiah Hartenstein, while the Heat will be without Terry Rozier, Davion Mitchell, with Tyler Hero listed as questionable. My best bet for this game is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over 30.5 points. I'm not going to get fancy here. He'd give up the 6th most points to the position. Expect a big game. The other spot I wanted to talk about is Chet Holmgren over 9.5 rebounds. Gets himself a pretty good matchup against the Heat, to give up the 10th most rebounds to the position. He hit his number at 6 of his last 10, 3 of his last 5, and his only game head-to-head. The next game up are the Minnesota Timberwolves traveling to San Antonio to play the Spurs. Spurs sitting at a 7-point favorite and a 228.5 point total. Timberwolves will be without Terrence Shannon Jr. with Anthony Edwards listed as questionable. The Spurs will be without Devin Vassell with Stephon Castle listed as questionable. My best bet for this game is Victor Wembanyama over 23.5 points. Finds himself in a good matchup against the Timberwolves to give up the 10th most points to the position. He's numbered 5 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 4 head-to-head, with both of them being over 25. Next game up are the Charlotte Hornets traveling to Golden State to play the Warriors. The Warriors are sitting at a 6-point favorite and a 233.5 point total. Hornets will be without Mason Plumlee, with Liam McNeely and Moses Diabate listed as questionable, while the Warriors will be without Seth Curry and Gui Santos. My best bet for this game is LaMelo Ball over 19.5 points. Really good matchup against the Warriors, who give up the second most points to the position. He's hit this number in 5 of his last 10 and 3 of his last 5, with both of his last 2 head-to-head. One other spot I wanted to talk about is Steph Curry over 27.5 points. Good matchup against the Hornets, who give up the 8th most points to the position. He's hit this number at 4 of his last 10. Expect a big game. Next game is the Washington Wizards traveling to Denver to play the Nuggets. Nuggets are sitting at a 13-point favorite and a 232.5 point total. Wizards will be without Cam Whitmore, Bilal Coulibaly, and Trae Young, with Chris Middleton and Tristan Vukovic listed as questionable, while the Nuggets will be without Tamar Bates, Cameron Johnson, Nikola Jokic, Jonas Valanciunas, and Christian Braun, with Bruce Brown, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon listed as probable. The best bet for this game is Peyton Watson over 19.5 points. Finds himself in a great matchup against the Wizards, who give up the second most points to the position. To this number in 7 of his last 10 and 3 of his last 5. Another spot I want to talk about is Alex Sarr over 17.5 points. Good matchup against Denver, give up the 7 most points to the position. It's number 5 of his last 10 in his last game head-to-head, scoring 34. The last game is the Los Angeles Lakers traveling to Portland to play the Trailblazers. Trailblazers sitting at a 3-point favorite and a 223.5 point total. Lakers will be without Austin Reeves, Adu Therio, and Luka Doncic, with Jackson Hayes and DeAndre Ayton listed as questionable. Portland will be without Blake Wesley, Damian Lillard, Chris Murray, Scoot Henderson, and Matisse Thybulle, with Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant listed as questionable, with Denny Avdia listed as doubtful. My best bet for this game is Marcus Smart over 3.5 assists. Gives himself a good matchup against the Trailblazers, who give up the 6 most assists to the position. He's number 5 of his last 10 and 2 of his last 3 head-to-head. I expect him to have the ball in his hands a lot more with Luka missing. Before finishing up, I wanted to give a recap of our best bets. Starting off with Yusuf Nurkic over 3.5 assists, minus 125. Cade Cunningham over 26.5 points, minus 110. Devin Booker over 6.5 assists, minus 115. Jaylen Brown over 2.5 threes, plus 120. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over 30.5 points, minus 120. Victor Wembanyama over 23.5 points, minus 120. LaMelo Ball over 19.5 points, minus 115. Peyton Watson over 19.5 points, minus 115. And lastly, Marcus Smart over 3.5 assists, minus 125. If you're interested in getting any more of our plays, feel free to join us over at the SplashBets VIP Discord. Use code YT10 for $9.99 first month.